everybody. Welcome to Studio Chatter. I'm Craig Reeves, and today's guest is one you guys have been asking for weeks. And this person needs no introduction. That, of course, is the one and only Bad Snacks. Bad Snacks is a record producer, multi-instrumentalist, and artist who got her start in classical violin and has since gone on to become one of America's most sought-after presenters and educators in electronic music production. She is well known for her appearance on Andrew Huang's Four Producers, One Sample, where, in my opinion, she stole the show. She's worked with talents such as Anomaly, Dressage, Imagiro, Andrew Huang, Dear Evergreen, and so many others. She has released 3 amazing albums, Neat Tape 1, Neat Tape 2, and Bathtub Bumps. She has a very popular Twitch channel, as well as a popular YouTube channel. Her latest release is a remix she did to a song called Boardwalk by Imagiro and Charlie. Gonna ask her about that. Bad Snacks and I have been wanting to do this episode for a while, and so we're happy that it finally got to happen. And if you guys are watching this on YouTube, please like, comment, and subscribe. That helps the algorithm. So, without further ado, this is my discussion with Bad Snacks. Bad Snacks, how are you?
I'm good. Good morning. How are you?
I am doing wonderful. Thank you for doing this. This is definitely an episode that a lot of listeners have been waiting for. This is one that a lot of people keep saying, Craig, when are you going to get Bad Snacks on? When are you going to get Bad Snacks on? And then people were really like that when I had Dear Evergreen on.
Yeah.
So they're like, oh my gosh, Dear Evergreen is on. So when are you going to get Bad Snacks? And I recommend that people listen to the Dear Evergreen episode. It's one of my favorite episodes. First of all, I gotta say, the Boardwalk remix that you did, the Imagiro and Charlie song that you did a remix for, I cannot stop listening to it. It is so good.
Thank you.
And I have to say, like, I love that you can still find time to release music, even though you're so busy.
I mean, I'm a musician, Craig. That's what I do. I'm first and foremost. That's part of the job. If I don't do that, then nothing matters.
Yeah, definitely. So how did that collab come about? What's the story behind that?
So obviously I've been a big fan of Imagiro's for a while, and I think that became more and more known as I was doing the Twitch stream feedback things. But I was basically approached by a label, by Chill Hop, that we had wanted to do some projects together, but we wanted to test the waters first with maybe some singles rather than just jumping into like a full blown release. Just to kind of establish a working relationship. And Kyle was like, hey, well, we have this Imagiro Charlie collab. Would you be interested in doing a remix for that? And I was like, sign me up. That is perfect. That's right up my alley. The funny thing about it, though, is that they had hit me up basically like right before I left for Red Rocks. And so I had no time to really do it before Red Rocks. And then I was gone for 2 weeks because I was on the road. And then I came back and they were like, hey, we need it by like this date if we're going to release it, just in accordance to our schedule. And I didn't have it yet. And I was like, well, what a shame it would be if I never got to do it. So I just banged it out in like a day and a half. It just flowed. It just happened. So I'm really happy with how it came out.
Yeah, it's crazy because when you said that it only took you a day to do that track, I was just even more blown away because a lot of times the best stuff takes very little time, because there was a remix, it was a cover that I did to one of Maddie J's songs, which you've heard, obviously.
Yeah, I love that.
And it literally only took me like 6 hours to do it. It started off on a stream because I was streaming at the time, and I just didn't have any idea for what I wanted to do for the stream. And Maddie J was the first artist I thought about. And I thought, hey, why not just do a CR78 cover on the stream? And I got so into it that I kept doing it after the stream. And There it was. So a lot of times that can happen. Yeah, it just flows, right?
Yeah. You got into that flow state.
There you go. And an interesting story about Boardwalk, the Boardwalk remix. I can't even say Boardwalk. I don't know what's going on. Like the Boardwalk remix is I had a commission project that same day, like the first commission project I'd gotten that whole year, this whole year. And it was the same day that the remix came out. And the commission was to do kind of a chill hop track. And so guess which song I used as a reference? Yours. So, and I got through it. I was able to do it. They said, oh, we love it. It was great. So you kind of helped me.
Yeah.
You kind of helped me out in that regard. So
that's awesome. Love that.
I think, I mean, obviously you are an amazing musician, and that's definitely the main reason why people have been so drawn to you. But I think another reason that's not talked about much is that you have a way of making what you do look like so much fun, whether it's on YouTube, whether you're on Twitch, whether you're doing live shows. You have a way of making what you do look like you're having the time of your life.
Yeah, it's one of my few true joys of existence.
Yeah, but I think that people need to be reminded that music is supposed to be fun, because we get so locked into the business side of it, and, you know, like we're selling a product that consumers are going to, you know, consume, I guess, that we sometimes forget that this is supposed to be fun. And I think that you're able to really do that. And with what's going on now, I think people need that escape.
You know, it's interesting because I resonate with that sentiment a lot, obviously. I don't know if I necessarily believe that it has to be fun, you know, because it's like, and this is, I'll explain why. Because, you know, obviously when I have other people involved and I'm like doing these really cool like sound design things, like I'm so impassioned by that, and I feed off of the energy of others, which is also why I get so animated when I like play live and stuff. But I think more importantly, and this, you know, this falls in line with what you're saying of like, you know, people get wrapped up in the business a ton, especially these days, is it just needs to feel significant to you. It needs to be, you know, it's a creative outlet. And I think, you know, like when I'm by myself, it's not like I'm smiling and giggling and, you know, whatever, you know, sometimes when I'm by myself, that's when I write my like really like dark, weird sound designy stuff. You know, sometimes I'll do like scrunch face by myself, you know, without the audience. And I wouldn't necessarily call that fun, but I would call that important. You know, it's important to me. And it's things like that where if I, you know, wasn't making my living through music, if I didn't have the career attached to it, I would still be doing it, you know? Yeah.
Yeah. One of the things that I always used to tell people is, you know, people would ask me, so if you weren't making money doing music, would you continue to do it? And I said, well, there was a point where I wasn't making money doing it.
That's like most of it.
And one of the things I really love about your YouTube videos, and especially your streaming on Twitch, and guys, in case you don't know, Bad Snacks has a great Twitch channel that you all should follow. But I love how you like to try new things. You'll go on Twitch and do a whole stream where you're trying out Omnisphere for the first time. Or you'll go on YouTube and you'll talk about this new synth that you got. I really love that about your channel, because honestly, I didn't really think about buying Omnisphere until I saw you streaming and you were using it. And I'm pretty sure that a lot of people went out and got Omnisphere as a result.
I mean, Omnisphere is a beast of a plugin. I mean, I feel kind of bad saying this, but like it has rendered a lot of the other soft synths that I use kind of useless. Like I don't even remember the last time I opened Serum. You know, which is like, you know, and I love Serum. I think Serum's great. But yeah, Omnisphere is just like it's a beast.
Man, I have not yet gotten Omnisphere, and I use Serum religiously because I love the fact that you can go to Splice and you can download presets for Serum. I'm almost afraid to get Omnisphere because I might leave Serum behind too as a result of that.
You very well could.
So I think there might be a misconception, and I think that you already kind of alluded to it, that when people see you on Twitch, when they see you on YouTube, when they see you doing your live shows and you're exuding so much positivity, that people are going to think that your entire life is just positivity and good vibes. But it's a lot of work, isn't it? I mean, to handle it all.
Yeah, it's an astounding amount of work. And I think there's also a really weird balance to take into account. Also, I'm so sorry. I think somebody's using their leaf blower right outside my apartment.
No, you're good.
But yeah, there's also this really interesting balance that not a lot of people take into account, where being able to work as a full-time musician is looked at as this like incredibly sought after thing of like, how lucky you are to be able to make a living from the thing that you love most, and to have kind of like this set of purpose kind of thing. Like there's always an objective, there's always something to do, and it's really enjoyable. And like my schedule is great. Like I very rarely have to set an alarm in the morning, and that was always a dream of mine because I used to work in cafes a bunch. And there's this kind of weird pressure of just like to stay not just grateful, but to exude this positive energy about it all the time. But I think what people fail to realize is that, it's an astounding amount of work, and it's all consuming. And I work 24/7. I mean, there are nights where I'll roll over at they'll roll over and check my phone at like 3 a.m. just to be like, oh, what time is it? Why am I awake? And then I'll see an email, and then I'll respond to the email at 3 a.m. It's like, it's just kind of always on the clock. And in music too, and maybe I put myself in this position, I don't know, but most of the work that I do, or I don't want to say most of the work because I do make a lot of music, but a huge portion of the work is not music related. It's just not.
Oh yeah. Like for instance, doing taxes, stuff like that. People don't think about that kind of stuff. Like when you're working for yourself, you're having to do taxes and all. And I'm very lucky that VIP Sound Circle has an accountant. But I remember when I had to use TurboTax and do it all myself, it was a pain. It was, I hated it. And I feel your pain in some regard, because when you were talking about how you're having to do all this stuff, you do video editing for your own videos on YouTube. And I know now that can take a while because I do this podcast, and I'm pretty sure it doesn't take as much time to edit a podcast episode as it does a video. And I didn't even realize how much time it took to do a podcast. So I could imagine what it's like to have a YouTube channel and a Twitch channel and do all this kind of stuff. So I definitely feel your pain there. And I think that though, because of that misconception, people might think, well, if I were Bad Snacks, then everyone would love me. Everyone would love my music. I'd never face any hardships. I'd never go through self-doubt. I'd never go through rejection. Could Bad Snacks even relate to what I'm going through? She never fails at anything. I mean, you're laughing, right?
Yeah. Yeah. There's a lot there to unpack with all of those kind of thoughts and projections. I am learning a lot on the job because because and this is something that I've brought up in workshops before of there are all these music schools that teach you essentially like how to make something of yourself, how to, be successful, quote unquote, in your career and whatever. But they don't teach you how to manage success. That's one thing that was like really critical that was missing, is like it's been really difficult to find, and like I've handled a lot now, like I've learned a lot on the job and like I'm chilling now, but like there was a time where I was getting a huge influx of interest and attention and all this stuff. And I just didn't know what to do with it, not just on like a managerial level of like literally how do I like capitalize on the opportunities that are being sent to me, but also like on a spiritual level of like, why are, like for instance, after the Andrew Huang thing, it was like there were like 25,000 new people following my channel and following my Instagram within a couple days. And I'm just like, who are these people? Why are they interested in me? And then kind of also having to separate, like, they're not actually interested in me. They're interested in this persona. So that is also, it's a little bit of a mind fuck. And nobody ever kind of clued me in to that part, because you just, it's so much of music education is about getting to that point of like, how do you even get to the point of getting people to pay attention? And then once they're paying attention, it's kind of like, okay, what do I do now?
Yeah. And people see that you are successful. And I think that there is a chance that because they think that you never fail at anything, because on the surface, let's see, you go to YouTube, you do YouTube, you're successful at that. It's super successful. Neat Tape 1, super successful. Neat Tape 2, super successful. Twitch, super successful. I mean, you have a really, really outstanding track record. And so people might think, well, okay, Bad Snacks just has the Midas touch. Everything she touches turns to gold, right? And if I model every single thing that she does, I can be successful like her. And so it might be that because they see that you are just so successful in a lot of the stuff that you do, they might think, well, maybe she can help me with this. Maybe she can help me with that. I would imagine you get a lot of people asking you for help on everything.
Oh, yeah. Daily. Lots.
Yeah, but but there's not a one size fits all approach, right? And I think definitely with you kind of mentioned that because you had this big influx of people coming in all at once, really, essentially, that there's kind of this fear of being vulnerable. There's kind of this fear of ever indicating that, okay, maybe I do have failures at times. Maybe there are setbacks, but because there's so much attention, your haters might rub your face in it, right? Like the minute I talk about one thing I fail at, that's something my haters now can remind me of forever, right?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, here's the thing is that like YouTube has been a really big hot and cold kind of struggle, because obviously it has warranted a ton of rewards for me. It's been incredibly helpful, but also, one thing about YouTube is the process of having all of your self-doubts being verbalized by people who are observing you that you don't know. And that can be pretty crazy. And also like, there is a sense of defensiveness and also like this kind of set level of imperviousness, especially as a woman in music and a woman in music tech, of like, I cannot show any of these weaknesses. I have to play to my strengths. And that doesn't mean I can't admit them. I'm happy to admit what I don't know, because I don't know everything. But like it's astounding to me that when I talk about technical things on YouTube, I mean, people just men like to just nitpick as much as they can and kind of tell me, what I'm doing wrong or whatever. And it's just kind of constant.
You are not the first woman that's told me this. I
will not be the last.
Yeah, it really is sad. And also on top of that, every one of us who goes into music, especially if you're an artist, I mean, every publicist is going to tell you that you have to portray this larger than life image. And there's this pressure to do that. And so it's difficult to, especially if you're a woman, because that people are just gonna want to take advantage of that. They're gonna be like, oh, okay, well, she exposed this. They're looking for something, right? And so if you give it to them, I know it definitely must feel like you just don't have the freedom to do that. And I remember, and it's something that all of us go through, but, just sometimes you've talked about how you will listen to somebody else's music and then compare yours to theirs. And you'll think, oh, I could never be that good or something like that. And, I can't say that I've ever done that myself, but what often happens with me is I'll listen to somebody else's song or somebody else's music, and I won't necessarily think I can't do it, but I'll always think, why didn't I come up with that idea first?
Oh yeah, of course.
That's me.
Of course.
Yeah, that's me. But one thing I do notice about you, and I think there is one lesson that people can take from your success, and it's really something that I've applied myself, is that you ever heard the phrase "start before you're ready"?
Oh, no, but I can figure it out.
Yeah. One thing that I've really learned from you is don't wait until you think you're ready to do something before you do it. Because you, I think, started before you were, quote, ready when you moved to Los Angeles from Boston.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that was the whole thing with the YouTube. That's how YouTube even started. I mean, I didn't want to be a YouTuber. That wasn't the intention. That was never the goal. Like, I saw Pat Ryan make beats on YouTube, and what he was doing seemed really achievable, and I was really looking to get better at production. So I was kind of just like, well, why don't I make things? Why don't I like try filming it the way that he does and just share it online, and like maybe it helps somebody else figure out something. And like also, I don't know, like maybe people will find this interesting, because also like I play violin, and that's kind of a weird thing to throw into a mix. But yeah, the first couple of videos I did were absolute garbage, and like I don't think I mean, I'm always working on my production, right? Like I'm always trying to improve, but I even listen back to like Neat Tape 1, and I think it's pretty clear that that tape is full of creative ideas that aren't executed entirely to the level that like I would now. Not to say like they're I still love that tape. But yeah, no, I mean, I think for me, it was like I had left Massachusetts, I had left Boston, I had left my family and a relationship. And I had a lot kind of riding on that. And I was like, okay, like I'm going to just do whatever. Like I'm going to do whatever it takes to make music my full-time job, because that's what I've essentially given up my whole life to do. So I'm going to just do whatever. and yeah. And what people don't realize with the YouTube, it didn't pop off right away. It's not like you jumped on YouTube and immediately the followers just started coming in. It took a while. Right. It took a while. I think I had built myself up to about 5,000 subscribers or followers or whatever before the Andrew Huang for Producers video. And then after that,
yeah, 5,000 is still a lot. That's still a good number.
Oh, thanks. Well, I think it was also because, again, like I think it was interesting for people to see like an instrumentalist kind of approaching production in this way. And then also from the get-go, and this wasn't even intentional, is that the channel has kind of always been a gear channel. Just because with even the first video, I was showcasing the organelle, and at the time the organelle was still fairly unknown to a lot of people, but a lot of synth enthusiasts were like very, very curious about it. So to see it being put into context was also something that people were really interested in. And then from that point on, it was kind of just like, okay, well, I'm going to just talk about a new synth kind of as I'm making beats each time. So that's kind of like some of the bare bones of the channel right there.
Definitely. I'm going to actually tell you a story, and because a lot of times when I have a guest on here, I ask them, how they came up, and I'll ask you that too, but I want to actually talk about how I came to know you. Okay. Because it's a really interesting story. I actually did not come to know you from the Andrew Huang video. I actually already knew who you were prior to seeing the Andrew Huang video. So I had a commission. It was a friend of mine who was helping me get commissioned at the time. And there was a YouTube cover singer who wanted to do a cover of Twice by Little Dragon. And this friend of mine helped me to commission the project. And I had never heard of this girl before. And he had sent me a zip file of a few things. He sent me a zip file of, you know, just her singing various songs, of like videos of her singing. And he sent me, of course, the original song, like the recording of the song. And then he sent me this PDF file. And in the PDF, it was a link. And he said, hey, this is a cover. You can listen to it and maybe get some inspiration. He was just very, you know, just listen to this cover. You can get some inspiration. And so I click on the link and it's your song. All right. So it's your version of the song.
Right.
Now at the time I didn't know you had produced it, because you weren't doing production in the video. You were playing violin and singing. And so I really loved it. I remember bookmarking it. And so I started working on a track and I kept comparing it to yours. And I didn't know you had produced it at the time. And I couldn't make it sound as good. I couldn't make it sound as good as your version. And I'm like, I got to beat this version, right? And I couldn't do it. And so eventually I got through it, and they actually never used it, but I mean, I got paid for it, whatever, who cares? But I remember then, you know, going to your channel, and I saw that you had you put a video of you going through the mix. Yeah. And so that's how I figured, okay, she produced this. And so I started binge watching you on YouTube. I started just going through all your videos. And I remember there was one, and I was just so impressed. And there was one video where I just was like, okay, I gotta know who this person is. And it was the one where you were doing a Tom Misch type track.
Oh, right.
You were playing guitar. And I think what got me was that the track was really cool, but it's like, how many instruments does this person play really well? Because you had done a video of you playing bass, and then you did a video of you singing. I heard you sing, and then you did violin, and now you're playing guitar. And it's like, oh my goodness. And then on the recommended side, there was the 4 producers, 1 sample thing, because this was in February of 2019.
Right.
And so I watched it, and I watched the 4 producers, 1 sample, and I was like, okay, this girl's better than me. I got to figure out what she's doing. And so God. I saw in one of the videos that you were, you know, giving lessons. You had your email and everything. I said, all right, let's do it. And so I hit you up. I go on Gmail. I hit you up and I say, hey, I'm a producer from Atlanta. Love to have a consultation with you, whatever. I don't hear back. You probably were getting like 1 million emails at that time, because you had just done the Andrew Huang thing, right?
That was like I actually kind of still feel like I need to re-upload that video without the text there, because like years later, I'm still getting too many lesson inquiries on that email in particular. I'm sorry that I didn't see your email, but yeah, no, at the time it was mayhem. I mean, I can't express enough after the 4 producers thing how messy everything got. It was unbelievable.
But you know what? You're here right now. Full circle, right?
Yeah. The full VIP sound circle.
There you go. Company plug right there, guys. Right. VIP Sound Circle Entertainment. But this was able to happen because of this community that came as a result of this horrible pandemic. So as bad as this pandemic was, it really brought about this really cool community where a lot of things wouldn't have happened had it not been for us all having to go on Twitch or Discord and all that kind of stuff. Because you said you didn't have any experience with Twitch and all that until the pandemic. Is that correct?
Yeah. I mean, Michaela was the one that kind of pushed me to do it and walked me through so much of it. And even now, like, a huge a part of Discord like doesn't make sense to me. And you know, I get by on Twitch, but like the OBS stuff, I like almost had a meltdown on one of my last beat making streams because I was like, you know, having CPU issues like crazy. And you know, I still don't entirely understand them, but they have been incredibly helpful tools. And it's been an amazing community experience for the past year, for sure.
It has been. I remember one time you said that this community was one of the best things that's happened in your career.
Oh, no doubt. I mean, when I first started making music and like really writing out, like in Los Angeles, and I was writing out like my goals, like my 5-year goals. I mean, it's always been an integral part of what I've wanted, is to build a community around my music. And I'm just like I'm a very community oriented person. And like, even in my long-term goals, it's like, you know, before I even moved to LA, I was like, one day I'm going to start a music school, you know, like, you know, and that's such a community thing too.
You can still do that.
Oh yeah, I mean, I'm not dead yet, but not completely.
Knock on wood, right?
Yeah, right. But you know, I think with the music school thing, I don't know if I really want to do an online school, even though that's like the most effective way to do it, especially for somebody with the platform that I have. But it would be really difficult for me to open an actual music school, just because I don't even really know where I'm going to be living. Like, I'm very, very much baseless right now. I'm kind of floating. So
we all are. One thing I'm very curious about. So, I mean, we've all learned so much from you during this time that we've had this community in existence. Are there things that you might have learned from us along the way?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like tons of stuff. I mean, everything from literally like, how does Discord even work? Like, Santos has been extremely helpful to me with both Discord and Twitch, but also like from a musical perspective, every time I do the Feedback Fridays, like I always end up walking away with a lot kind of floating around in my head of being like, you know, I never really thought to do that, or like, you know, that's really interesting. And yeah, I absolutely learn things from everybody in the Discord all the time. I mean, it's crazy.
Yeah, well, even if you don't mean it, tell me that has happened with one of my tunes.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, like I tell you all the time, like your vocal processing chains are to be envied. Like the way that you do them is so clean. And then your chords are always like, you know, I'm always hooting and hollering when I'm listening to your tracks.
One of these days, and I keep telling myself I'm going to do it, I'm actually going to put up a YouTube video series on how I do vocals.
Yeah.
And it's funny because a lot of what I learned about vocal processing came from Michaela, Dear Evergreen. And I actually told her that. Oh, yeah. Like, she taught me so much about reverb use and vocal processing and all that kind of stuff. One of the things that you brought up, and I think you were kind of tongue-in-cheek about it, but I really, really would encourage you to take it more serious. And I'm going to try to make a case to you right now, okay, about a record label. I'm going to tell you why I think it's a genius. I'm going to tell you why I think it's a genius idea.
All right, pitch it to me, Craig. Pitch it to me. Right? You got 30 seconds. Give me your elevator speech. Let's go.
All right. So let's say I wouldn't go the route of trying to sign artists. I don't think that would be the best way to go. I think what you could do is what a lot of labels do today is just singles or songs or albums could be released on a label. Not necessarily the artist that did it, but just like a song could be released on a label. And because you have such a large community, and I guess most people in the community would want to be part of the label, or at least want to put something out under the label, right? Release something under the label. So let's say that Annie Elise wants to release a song under your label. Well, because we all are going to have an investment in making sure that the label is successful, all of us are going to be trying to make that song go viral. We're all going to be promoting it. We're all going to be tweeting about it. We're all going to be, putting it in our Instagram or social media or whatever. Mm-hmm. And we would all be going about trying to promote this record. Well, if there are 40 people trying to promote it, then it's a whole lot more likely that it's going to do well. Well, if the record does well, then not only obviously does the label get a cut of it, because that's what happens when you release something under a label, but your label ends up gaining more clout. And if we do that over and over again for more records, then eventually you're basically P. Diddy. Not literally P. Diddy, but I mean, like one of the ways that P. Diddy came to prominence is that so many hit artists were coming through his label, like Biggie, Faith Evans, etc. Mm-hmm. It wasn't because of his music, right? So it's something you can think about. I think it's a really good idea considering the following that you have.
Yeah, it's so funny because I listen to this and I'm like, in my mind, I'm like, it's like a bunch of communists trying to break into a capitalist system. It's like, it's very self-contained and trying to expand from that way. It is a really interesting idea. I think that if I were to actually do it, first of all, I would need the first ever patented IV full of coffee. That's step number one. Because just with everything that I have, I can't even manage myself, Craig. Like, I struggle to keep up with what's on my own plate, let alone running a record label, which is a full-time job, right?
Oh, I know. Believe me,
yeah,
it is.
Yeah. So that, it is an interesting idea. And I think, I would probably have to find like a really good partner for it. But I think, like everything that you're saying is totally accurate of just like, I know that there's a lot of really talented people that, would like to release with that, and that there's a whole now baseline community of people who would like to promote it and stuff. I think where it becomes a little convoluted for me is that I can't work with the current model of music business at large when it comes to just streaming and just making music and just production. Like, it would have to be a label with another component attached, which is why I was bringing up Snacks Camp, which I'm actually very interested in.
I was about to bring that up.
So the thing is that, like I have, I don't want to be like overly pessimistic or whatever, but I have absolutely no faith in the future of music streaming. I think it's a mess. I think that I'm incredibly fortunate to even have any eyes or ears on what I do. But the other thing too is that, I think one of the reasons that I have been able to survive and thrive is because I have diversified my music life so much, which is also kind of why I have spread myself very thin in a lot of ways. But, I truthfully, if I'm being honest with you, if I were doing the traditional artist route where I'm just making music and just trying to promote it, I don't think a lot of people would care. Not saying that I don't have confidence in my abilities. Like I know my music's good. I know a lot of people really like it. But it's such a competitive market, and I'm not a competitive person, and I'm not willing to play that game. I'm not hungry enough for that, like, because that takes a level of dedication. At one point I was like, when I first moved to LA, but realizing that by diversifying kind of what I'm about and kind of leaning into my skills as like a teacher, as a speaker, as somebody who can analyze things and explain them, like things like music tech and stuff, that has kind of, it's a symbiotic relationship where like, it helps me make my music, then my music helps me grow this, and back and forth. So, to that effect, if I were to start a label, I think that the music streaming aspect of it would actually be probably the thing that's the least in focus. Just because, I find myself fatigued daily of just like when I like hop on TikTok and I see so many people just vying for your attention. They're fighting for your attention. That's really what they're doing. It's like it's become a fight. And sometimes you really do just like stumble across like some really genuine talent, and like that's really exciting, and then they get discovered that way. So it's definitely possible, but I think it's just, for me, creating a business out of it where I am obligated like contractually obligated, and also like spiritually obligated, because I obviously want to see these people that I care about in my community. I want to see them do well, and I'm not gonna half-ass anything that I'm working with them on. I think it's a lot. it's a lot.
Yeah, it sounds like a fear of being overextended. So if you did start a label, there would have to be people who are willing to work with you on it. I mean, to be honest,
I think they would have to take over the entire streaming part, because like I can't be a cheerleader. Like I'm just not built for it. Like I meet a lot of like,
oh no,
go ahead.
The point that I was making is you wouldn't have to be. Everybody else would be, because remember, you have a whole community of people who all have skin in the game.
Right.
Remember, they're going to want for your label to be successful, because if it's successful, they can release stuff on your label.
Right.
So you wouldn't have to do anything. You literally could sit back and just...
Yeah, but the other side of that is that it's like, if I'm associated with it, if it has my name on it,
you're going to want to be involved. Yeah.
Right. Especially when it's like people I care about, and people whose music I really genuinely want to see do well. I mean, I don't know if you've noticed this, but like I go to fucking bat for the friends that I think are really talented and are slept on. Like I will go out of my way to bring them up, like organically, in as many conversations.
I can speak from experience on that. I speak from experience on that, because you remember that Maddie J cover that I did. Yeah. I ended up doing the Maddie J cover. I showed it to you, and before I knew it, people were like, "You got to release this. You got to release this. You got to release this." I'm like, oh, Bad Snack showed me. I'm like,
yeah. I know. I posted it on my Instagram story, and I tagged Maddie too, because I was like, this is good. This deserves to be heard. And that's
and they were like, oh, you got to finish this now.
Yeah, you do. You really do. But it's like, but that's the thing, is that I was just gonna say that, like, if somebody is making music that I genuinely think is good. Like for instance, let's take Michaela, for instance, because I feel like I'm often like, I'm like number one cheerleader over here.
She's phenomenal, dude. She's incredible.
She's so talented. And like, I always... I mean, well, now that she's kind of building up her repertoire or her discography, like now we're kind of seeing these ideas come to life. But like I've known her since before these releases, and it's like from the get-go, it's like I always saw so much potential. And like if you're like a hardworking, good person, like I will do whatever I can to make sure that like the people in my world know that.
One of the things that I brought up in the Dear Evergreen episode is, because we spent like 5 minutes just bragging on you, talking about like, because one of the things I brought up was a lot of people in your position, as soon as they find success, they're not going to want to bring up people up with them. They're not going to want to send the elevator back down. There's this tendency of people who become successful, they're going to want to cut the rungs of the ladder from underneath them. And you're the opposite. And so I tell people all the time, dude, people like Bad Snacks are not common, because I've known a lot of people in the 21 years I've been doing this, and not everybody's like you. Like 9 out of 10 people are not.
I recognize fully, like, oh my gosh, like I wouldn't be here without the help of other people. So who am I to ditch? You know what I mean? When I got to LA, I mean, like that was my brother. My brother was the one who like really helped me get started and established. And he shared his studio apartment with me, let me crash on his floor for like a month. And then he moved out of his studio apartment just so that like, I'd have like a place, with somebody that I knew. I've made friends through work that have just been like, wildly generous. Like one of my mentors was somebody that I met through the chef of my old restaurant job. And we were at like a Super Bowl party, and I got like, oh, you're from Atlanta, so you'll like this story. So it was Atlanta of the Patriots, and that was the one where the Patriots came back in the last quarter. And Craig, I was so drunk. I got so drunk. And
see, this is one area where you and I are going to be crossing paths, because I hate the Patriots. So I know you're a Patriots fan. I hate the Patriots, and you hate the Falcons. You hate the Falcons. Well, listen, look, I don't care about the Falcons. I'm a Cowboys fan.
Here's the thing about New England sports is that we actually don't give a shit about most other teams. Like, it's just the New York teams that we like don't like. Everybody else.
Oh, you guys hate the Yankees.
We hate the Yankees. We hate the Giants. Yeah. We don't even care about the Jets.
I don't like the Giants either. I hate the Giants too. Don't worry, Cowboys. I'm originally from Texas, so I'm gonna be a Cowboys fan my whole life. But yeah, we hate the Giants too, so don't worry. That's funny.
And
I hate the Yankees.
Yeah.
I actually like the Red Sox. I hate the Yankees.
Really
I'm an Astros fan, but yeah. So that. You had mentioned earlier about your YouTube channel, and about how you already had like 5,000 subscribers prior to the Andrew Huang deal. Yeah. And I don't think people really appreciate how much your cover of Shiki No Uta benefited your following on YouTube, because that's really where the upward trajectory really started, wasn't it?
I think they do recognize it, because it's my most popular song.
Got over 1 million streams on Spotify. How about that?
I know.
Yeah, was that just like a one day, I'm just going to do a cover of a song that I like off of an anime?
I mean, Samurai Champloo is my favorite anime of all time. It's like one of those pieces that every time I watch it, I have like a very specific feeling in my heart. And the outro theme is just like so good, especially that one line that Mimi does where it's the just like, that gets me every single time. And I was like, shit, well, you know what? Why don't I just try this out? It's only 3 chords or whatever. And I cranked that out also in a day.
A day? It seems like the biggest, most successful songs you crack out in a day.
I know.
Do you normally just work fast? Is that what it is?
No. I mean, there are songs that I've been working on for years at this point, which is also why I don't have any songs with vocals on them, because I overwork them too much. But yeah, I mean, it's just, sometimes you just hit the flow. You just hit that flow state, and then it just comes out and people vibe with it.
Comes out.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Did you know Andrew Huang? Like, did you know him before the 4 Producers 1 Sample, or did he just approach you after seeing your channel?
So it's the latter, but interestingly enough, obviously I knew about his channel, and also kind of a side funny story. Back when I was going under a different producer name, I had submitted to one of his challenges, and I actually made it to the top where I got a feature on his page under that name. It was like for his like shiny challenge.
Oh, cool.
And so so we had both gotten that YouTube audio library gig where we were like, contributing tracks to the YouTube audio library, and we got released on the same day alongside Red Means Recording. So I took that as an opportunity to reach out to both of them separately, just to send an email and be like, hi, like I was also on that project, like I exist, hi. And no response. Which is fine. But then fast forward about,
now you know how I felt.
I know. Well, and I didn't blame him for him, because it's like, just like, I'm sure that you kind of recognize, like, oh, you probably get a lot of emails. I
didn't blame you either. Yeah. I didn't blame you when you didn't respond to me.
Right. But yeah, fast forward like 5 months, I got an email where he was like, hey, I'm doing this thing. Do you want to do it? And I was like, well, this is going to shake things up a little bit. But yeah, it was just, he had just seen my channel, and Andrew does a really good job of kind of going out of his way to diversify his lineups. So I think that also probably had something to do with it. Just making sure that women are, also in the mix.
Why do you think I've had so many women on this show? I've made it a point to bring every woman I know on this show.
Yeah.
And what people may not realize is that I know a lot of folks have been waiting for this episode, but really Bad Snacks and I have been planning this like for 8 weeks. So I mean, it's like,
I know, I remember
both
when
of our
you brought
schedules
it up.
oh yeah, like both of our schedules are so busy that it took so much time for us to do it. But you did that track in one day. Like, did they just send you an email of the sample and then they just said you have one day and you got to send it back to us?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, they were like,
so the pressure must have been insane.
I was wigging out, especially because, we've talked about flow state a few times today, which is, I'm realizing there's a trend here. But that song also, like, I'm really fortunate because I found just the right sample and my brain kind of knew where I wanted to go with it. And I just didn't run out of ideas, which was like perfect. But I definitely was under a lot of pressure, but I worked pretty well under pressure. But definitely by the end of it, I was like, when you're working on the same song for like, I worked on it for like 10 hours or something like that. I took the day off and I was just like hammering away at, I was just in my apartment. Like I took the day off work to just work on it because I wanted it to be good. I wanted to like showcase, like this is a really big opportunity and I can't fuck it up. And I remember like by the end of the process, I invited a friend over just to listen to it because I was like don't give me any like suggestions, don't give me any mixing tips or whatever. Like I'm gonna play this for you and just tell me if it fucks or not. Like just give me something. And so I played it back for him and he like gave me just like a quiet nod and I was like, okay, I can send it in.
It does. It's really good. It's still one of my favorite joints from you. Now you spent 5 years in Los Angeles, right?
Yes.
From 2015 up until 2020.
Yes. Yeah.
What made you leave?
Okay, so this is kind of a funny story. And it's a combination of things. So I needed a break from Los Angeles. I think my living situation was getting to be a bit stressful and we were having like a lot of like crime issues like right outside my door. And so it was like starting to be a place of like, I couldn't even get to sleep because there would be shit happening right outside of my door. And it was really getting to me. I had also kind of gone through a significant breakup. So there were a lot of like kind of bad memories associated. It was just kind of like, okay, I need a break from this. I'm a tree person. I'm from New England. Like I need green. And I was like, okay, well, what's the next bit? Okay, look, let's try Portland. Let's try Portland for a couple months. And the plan was that I was going to be up here for 3 months. And I made this plan in January. And I set up like a sublet and everything. I got a sublet for my place. And I also found a place to sublet for the summer. And I was going to be back in LA in August. And then I get to Portland right around April, which is like height of quarantine and pandemic. And so that was really interesting. But then what happened is that about a month and a half into my like experimental stay here, my roommates and my subletter were like, hey, we're dipping. Like we can't stay in Los Angeles because there's nothing for us to do. They were all musicians. So they were just going to go home for a bit and save some money rather than like shell out rent when they didn't have any gigs. So I either had a choice to end my Portland trip early, come back down to LA, get a new place in LA, and then sit there in LA for an undetermined amount of time, not really knowing what to do because I myself am a musician. And like, if I'm not going to gigs, if I'm not going out to gigs, like, I like Los Angeles in some capacities. Like the music scene is what kept me there, but kind of everything else I don't really entirely gel with. So I decided to stay in Portland. I went down to LA to grab my stuff, came up to Portland just for a little bit longer. And then, I was up here without a place in LA. I had all my stuff with me. And then my last living situation then kind of was starting to like, I realized I couldn't do work from there because we were like splitting a very small house and it just like it wasn't working out. So then I got an apartment that required a year-long lease. So that's why I've been up here for so long. It was kind of an accident a little bit. And I will say that like Portland has been a great place to kind of hide out during the pandemic. And you know, things are still so up in the air, and I think in a lot of ways I'm grateful that I'm not in Los Angeles right now, especially because we're like kind of hitting another uptick of, you know, coronavirus cases, which means that shit's gonna get shut down again. Like, I mean, it's already happening in a lot of ways, and it's like I think it would be incredibly stressful to go back down to LA for that to happen again. So my plan as of right now is to hang out in Portland basically until the coast is clear, and hopefully that happens within the next year.
Yeah, I'm going to be really honest. I'm going to be completely honest, and I hope I don't like make my LA listeners upset, because I love a lot of the people that
LA sucks. Go
come
ahead,
from
go
Los
off.
Angeles, and
LA is terrible. Go for it.
LA. It's not for me. It's just not for me. I didn't have a good experience.
It's like the most polite way that you can say that.
When I lived there for a few months. Okay, yeah, I don't like it. I'm just going to be honest. Yeah. I mean, it's fine. LA is fine if you're doing really well. Like if you are living by yourself, you make decent money, or if you make great money and you have it. Like, it's not a place where a couple under 30 years old is going to want to buy a house and start a family. Not unless that family is like way beyond six figures. Housing it's insane. It is insane.
Yeah.
The average cost of a home is like $500,000 in LA. Like you got to be rich to be poor.
Oh, I mean, it's way beyond $500,000. $500,000 will maybe get you a small, like
a house in the hood.
Maybe. But even some hoods are getting gentrified pretty quickly. Yeah. I mean, like parts of Inglewood now are like, they just built a stadium out there. So that's not good for the people who live there, for the communities there. I mean, that was another kind of point of contention, is like I was living in Highland Park, and Highland Park, you know, is still fairly affordable. It's on the east side. And my neighbors were either like, you know, transplants or like multi-generational Mexican families. And I liked Highland Park because it was still kind of like a healthy balance between new and old. Like we still had like Chico's as an institution, and it's not going anywhere. But then, you know, you also have like coffee shops and stuff that are a little bit more like bougie or whatever you want to call them. It's not completely gentrified, but it's also, you know, still kind of like on the up and up. But even then, it's like I felt extremely conflicted about that. And just in the sense of like, I didn't grow up here. Like I'm not making it easier for the people who have lived here for generations. Like, what am I doing here? And that's a whole other, you know, can of worms to break into. But, you know, that was like, that was a huge, like, kind of moral dilemma for me of just like, do I actually really belong here? You know, but I can't afford Silver Lake. I can't afford Echo Park. I can't afford, you know, these other new, and I don't.
I lived right outside of Echo Park, actually.
Yeah, and Echo Park's.
I lived in an apartment right outside of Echo Park.
It's a cool spot. I mean, I like it a lot, but
it was expensive.
My God. But it's it's wild. I mean, like that's the other thing too, is like the cost of living up here in Portland. I'm kind of just like, you know, if I'm going to like hide out during the pandemic, I might as well try to, you know, save some money. Not saying that like, you know, like I have a studio apartment here. And it is definitely like the most expensive place I've ever rented, but also in the grand scheme of things, it's not like crazy. And also just given like, you know, the neighborhood, it's pretty good. But like this, like the amount that I'm paying for this apartment is, I don't even know if I could get a room in a house for this much.
Oh yeah.
You know?
Yeah. It's crazy. Like I make pretty good money at my day job, you know, and I live like, this place is 3-bedroom. It's pretty nice. And I wouldn't be able to afford a 1-bedroom. in LA. I mean, I make six figures. I wouldn't be able to afford a one bedroom in LA just because
it's crazy.
It's so expensive.
It's crazy. I mean, I've been keeping my eye on like Craigslist because I am planning on going back at some point, probably this winter. Again, depending on how things, shape up with the lockdowns and stuff. But, I've been keeping my eye on Craigslist, and it's just like, dang, like I don't know if I'm going to be able to really afford much more than a studio apartment. And it's like, technically speaking, it's like maybe I could afford a nicer one bedroom. I would love to have a one bedroom so I can like shut the door between my bed and my studio.
Yeah, I feel you.
Yeah, that would be ideal. But at the same time, I'm kind of just like, man, like, I could either spend a year, in a really nice place to live in Los Angeles, to like have like a decent quality of living where I'm not like in a super dangerous neighborhood. Like, like the last place I lived, it was really starting to get stressful. But then it's like I could either have like a nice standard of living, or my folks are, they moved to Maine since I went to Los Angeles. It's like, or I could get a whole ass house in Maine,
Maine. Have you been to Maine?
I have been to Maine.
It is beautiful.
Right. I mean,
absolutely beautiful.
I'm glad that you said that, because I think a lot of people sleep on Maine. Like they
oh, it's beautiful.
They don't really know, because it's hard to get to. I mean, like, full disclosure, like my mom lives in a very rural place in Maine that is so hard to get to that I have actually only been there once. Like it's incredibly I mean, Maine is tough. I mean, it's like, it's one thing to fly, you fly into Boston and then you can like take a train up or whatever. And there are regional airports, but it's like, you can expect to be in transit for like 12 hours.
Yeah. Hey, but you can't say too much about Boston, because Boston is beautiful too. Like, I gotta admit, like, I was living up there for a very short time because I was installing cable boxes in Worcester, Mass. And it's beautiful.
You just call
up there,
it
like,
Worcester?
especially winter.
Worcester. You're clearly not from Massachusetts.
I'm not.
Yeah.
No, I'm from the South.
Yeah.
I installed cable boxes up there.
Yeah, and Worcester
and it's
sucks.
really nice. Oh, come on.
Worcester's terrible.
Well, look, I mean, Southie is not good either, because that's South Boston. It ain't good. It is racist. It is one of the most racist areas I have ever been to. South Boston is so racist, dude. Yeah, it is so racist.
It's not great. It's definitely like, I think
I got pulled over 3 times while I was there.
Yeah, no,
yeah, it's crazy.
It's especially like Boston itself, like you have like proper Boston, and that's kind of like, it's a little bit, it's like city-ish, but it's a little bit more chill. But it's the immediate I don't want to call them suburbs, but the metro areas right outside. So when you're like in Dorchester, Malden, Everett, Roxbury, those kind of areas. Well, actually, Roxbury can be cool. But
is that where you're from?
No,
I'm
from like west of Boston. So I grew up like halfway between Boston and Worcester. So I'm like, so I was like a little bit further out. But the thing is that it's like, I used to do programs in Boston weekly for like 10 years of my life. So I've spent a lot of time in the city, and I was only like 25, 30 minutes away.
Were you in the Boston Youth Orchestra?
I was.
Oh, I knew it.
Yeah.
Just lucky guess. Lucky guess. Literally lucky guess.
Yeah, no, but
I went to go see them. They're really good.
Yeah. When did you see them?
Ago.
What year?
Oh, gosh. 2011, I think.
I was there. I was in it.
You might have been in it.
I was in it in
Crazy,
2011.
Right? Yeah.
Yep.
Because it was right when I first moved up here, because I was installing cable boxes up there.
Yeah.
At the time.
Did you go to Symphony Hall, or did you go to
Symphony Hall?
Yeah, I was there. You probably saw me on stage.
Wow. Playing violin. Yep. Were you first chair?
God, no. Absolutely not.
I don't remember you being first chair. I think it was an Asian girl that was first chair, I think.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I was rocking like the back of the second violins. I was just happy to be there.
Being in the second violins last chair is still really good if you're in the Boston Youth Orchestra. So, I mean, and plus you play a lot of instruments. So you play violin, you play cello, you play viola, you play bass, you play guitar, you sing. I think I saw you playing trumpet one time.
Yeah.
So I don't think you have anything to worry about. Bad Snacks, this has been amazing. Thank you so much for doing this. This has been the episode that a lot of people have wanted to listen to. And I really appreciate you doing this. And your future's bright. It is very bright.
Thank you.
I mean, it already is happening. So thank you.
Yeah, thanks for having me. This has been awesome.
That is going to do it for this week's episode of Studio Chatter. Until next time, you guys stay safe and be blessed.